Hi, I'm Georgie. I'm a policy advisor on the AI alignment team at DFE. My team focuses on ensuring that AI products are safe and effective for education. So, a bit of an overview of what I'm going to take you through in this session. So, firstly, how is AI relevant to me as a school business professional? Then I'll touch on what DFE is doing about generative AI. And then some guidance for using AI responsibly and safely. And then I've got a couple of discussion points, and I would love to hear from you and your feedback at the end of the session. So, yeah, kick off. So, to start, so in her keynote speech at the BET show on the 22nd of January, Bridget Phillipson outlined plans for the modernisation of the education sector, and in particular, how we can use generative AI to reduce workload. And at DFE, we want to make sure that you as a school business professional can make the most of opportunities presented by generative AI, for example, the time-saving benefits. So, generative AI, why is it relevant? So, first off, I'm going to just define what generative AI is. So, generative AI is a type of AI, funnily enough. ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, they're all generative AI tools built on large language models. These models are trained on large amounts of data and content, enabling them to understand and generate new human-like content. These tools can answer questions, complete written tasks, generate images, text, and code, and they can respond to prompts in a really human-like way. Other forms of generative AI can produce audio, simulations, and videos. I think it's also important to note that AI isn't new. In fact, we use it in everyday life. So the media recommendation systems, navigation apps, Google Maps helped me get here this afternoon. So when generative AI came on the scene, at DFE, we knew we needed to work with the sector to understand the implications. So in summer 2023, we ran a call for evidence on the use of generative AI in education, seeking views from teachers and leaders. Most of the respondents were early adopters, but they reported on some of the main use cases of generative AI that they were using it for. So some of these main use cases were creating educational resources, so enhancing teaching resources, including handouts and worksheets. There was lesson and curriculum planning, so to design lessons, assemblies, and experiments. There were live uses in lessons to generate good writing examples and to explain complicated concepts or ideas. There was assessment marking and feedback, writing student reports, generating example questions for exams, and producing marking rubrics. There were also administrative tasks, and this was for both teachers and non-teachers, including school business professionals. This included writing letters and emails, to staff, pupils, and parents, developing communication and marketing materials, producing content for newsletters, and creating social media posts. They also used it for summarising meeting minutes, writing documents and relating to students, and to produce institutional documents, so policy documents, risk assessments, frequently asked questions. There are also those who use generative AI for skills and training and to promote AI literacy, so they'd give live presentations and show how it worked, and those who used it as a search engine. So, and generally from this call for evidence, we found that there was an appetite for use of generative AI, but respondents were really keen that we provide guidance and support for its use. Okay, cool. So from the call for evidence, we heard from respondents where they saw the potential, but also where they had some major concerns. So the potential benefits included saving time, creating high quality and creative teaching, helping people with their confidence and development. Also creating engaging and creative resources, elevating their creativity. They also found that it helped with personalisation and supporting with accessibility and inclusion. So, as well as these benefits, they were also worried about barriers and risks. For example, user knowledge and skills. So there was a lack of knowledge about how to use the tools, like how to engineer their prompts to get the right answers. And there were also concerns around actually how to use things ethically and safely. There were concerns about the performance of tools, so inaccurate content, or biased results, and the worst thing ever, Americanized spelling. So, yeah. There was also workplace awareness and attitudes. Some institutions resisted using it because they were concerned about the risks presented, but they were also concerned about the impact on teaching. And then there was data protection adherence. So there were concerns with non-compliance with the legislation. It would take time to develop policy and to properly risk assess tools. And this limited adoption due to these concerns, and use was blocked until they could thoroughly investigate these tools. There were concerns around managing student use, particularly managing academic malpractice. And in addition to this, pupils' potential exposure to inaccurate, biased, or even harmful content, and how we could even safeguard these pupils. They identified young pupils and SEND pupils as the most at risk. But there was also the concerns of pupil access being limited by lack of devices at home and Wi-Fi outside of the educational setting. There were also limits around access, so paywalls and premium versions kind of limited access to functionality. But there were also issues with integrating tools into current technology systems and institutions just banning use altogether. So taking a step back from this, I kind of see two ways in which generative AI are relevant for you as school business professionals. Firstly, there's how can you use generative AI to help you in the task you're doing? So can it help you directly with your work? So developing policies, summarizing meetings. And then I think there's the second one is how you can support others in your settings to use it effectively. So I'm sure there's a range of roles here, but some of you may have responsibility for adherence to data protection here. So you might be asked questions about privacy notices, completing data protection impact assessments. You might be responsible for integrating your tools with existing systems and providing the right kind of training to your staff. So, yeah, and then I'm just going to touch on some of the journey that DfE has been on, and then I'll get into some really useful advice and guidance. So when it kind of first came on the scene, since then, we've been really focusing on providing the basic access to the right digital infrastructure. So, for example, we've invested over 200 million in our Connect to the Classroom programme, improving Wi-Fi connectivity over 1.2 million pupils in over 3,400 schools. We've been scanning and evidence building to build our understanding of the opportunities and the risks of generative AI. In addition to a call for evidence, we've published a report outlining educator and expert views on generative AI, and we regularly commission research into relevant areas of digital education, so like the biennial Tech in Schools survey. So, and in particular, in October 2023, we ran a series of hackathon events involving AI experts, teachers, leaders, and students. So we got all these people together and we got them to test use cases for generative AI, so lesson planning, writing reports, data synthesis, and marking. And we basically wanted them to test the basic generative AI products available and see if they could engineer their prompts to get the best outcomes possible. We wanted to know if these tools could complete these tasks to a high standard. And what we found overall was that though some of the 12 use cases explored had significant potential and impact, there were no cases in which participants thought that the solution developed was ready for use in schools. So since then, we've been thinking about our approach to stimulating safe and effective product development. So we've recently announced a load of stuff, but so back in August, with a £3 million investment in the AI content store, which aims to make available the data and content needed to make high quality tools, generative AI tools. And we also recently announced £1 million in funding to 16 innovators to develop prototype AI feedback tools across early years, schools and colleges. We've also brought together major technology companies to agree the AI product safety expectations, setting clear technical safeguards, including prioritizing child-centered design and enhancing filtering and monitoring. In addition to this, we're creating the conditions for scaling AI safely and effectively. So I announced at BET the other week, the EdTech Evidence Board, where we will be exploring how we effectively build evidence of AI products that work well, so we can help settings to feel confident that they are choosing products that work for them in their classrooms. And we were also developing a new package of training and guidance for teachers, support staff, and leaders to help them confidently and safely unlock the time-saving benefits of AI. We're also leading the public dialogue and building trust. So back in spring 2024, we completed some deliberative engagement, exploring the attitudes of pupils and parents towards the use of AI in education. This took the form of in-person and online workshops across England with pupils aged 11 to 18, along with their parents. We took the time to inform participants about the topic so they had a baseline understanding and about AI and the potential applications. And then we had a guided discussion on social, ethical, and legal and financial issues that may arise in relation to the topic. It prompted a discussion to try and uncover different areas of agreement and disagreement. And then the outcome of these discussions, where there was consensus, this helped develop some guiding principles for conditions for use of AI in education. Some of these included human oversight, adherence to data protection, regulations, and standardization and regulation. I won't rehash the entire paper because it's pretty long, but I can send you guys a link. So yeah. But then the most important bit, how using AI responsibly and safely and support and guidance for you. So the key considerations for use of AI in education. So firstly, safeguarding. Schools and colleges are free to make their own choices about the most suitable use cases for generative AI in settings, as long as they comply with their statutory obligations. Any use of pupil, student, or staff should be considered and assessed, and safety should never be compromised. You should consider that there may be uses that are not explicitly approved, and any risk assessments should include plans for mitigating against these use cases. As a setting, you may only choose for teachers to use AI tools, or only utilize pupil-facing tools for specific subjects. You should comply with any age restrictions and consider online safety. Pupils should only use generative AI with appropriate safeguards in place. For example, supervision and tools that use safety and monitoring features. In relation to data protection and privacy, personal data must be protected. Generally, we recommend that personal data is not used in generative AI tools. If it is used, then you must comply with the regulations and you must be open and transparent when considering use of profiling or automated decision-making. For example, if you're developing an in-house tool like chatbots or AI assistants. You must ensure that your data subjects, so your pupils, parents, staff, yourselves, understand how their personal data is being used and processed in AI tools. There are considerations for intellectual property when using these tools. So materials protected by copyright can only be used to train AI if permission from the copyright holder or a statutory exemption applies. Materials created by pupils or teachers could be copyright materials. And it's important to note that copyright is distinct from data protection law. They're both legal frameworks that you have to apply. So some tools, usually the free-to-access ones, will use input submitted by users to train and refine the tools. Paid ones may allow users to opt out of this. And it's important to note that examples of original creative work can include essays and homework created by students and lesson plans created by teachers. Schools and colleges must not allow or cause student work to be used to train a model unless they have permission or an exception to copyright. Settings may wish to take legal advice on this. And then I think there are also considerations for secondary infringement, and this is where you've used a product trained on unlicensed material and the outputs are used widely, for example, a photo published on a website. And then finally, there are considerations around schools and colleges and awarding organisations needing to continue taking reasonable steps to prevent malpractice involving the use of generative AI. So JCQ has published guidance on AI use in assessments, and this guidance provides teachers and exam centres with information to help them prevent and identify malpractice involving the misuse of AI. It includes information on what counts as AI misuse and real-life examples of malpractice. The requirements for teachers and exam centres to help prevent and detect malpractice, AI use in marking, and an expanded list of AI tools, including AI detection tools. So, sources of guidance and support. So the generative artificial intelligence, AI in education is DfE's policy paper setting out our position on the use of generative AI, including large language models in the education sector. It sets out all of the guidance I just went through and loads more links to further resources and guidance. So I'd strongly encourage you all to read it. We've also linked the product safety expectations that were published back in January, and this sets out guidance and capabilities and features that generative AI products and systems should meet to be considered safe for users in educational settings. These are expectations are more for edtech developers and suppliers to schools and colleges. And then finally, the data protection in schools guidance. This contains guidance for schools and colleges to support them in meeting their obligations under the data protection legislation, but there is a specific section on addressing data protection risks of using generative AI in schools. Ooh. Sorry, laptop is dying. So yeah, and these slides will be circulated after the event. So I put a bit of time for discussion in. So I'm really keen to hear from you. I want to know if you're using AI already and what you're using it for. I want to know where you see the potential for generative AI. Thank you. Oh, oops. I didn't realise I had to plug it in. Thanks. Oh, sorry, I don't think I can recover from that. Okay. Right, okay. Going back to what I was saying, I really want to hear from you. I want to know if you're using generative AI, what you're using it for, where you see the potential, and what you're worried about. And then kind of, I think most importantly, what do you think you need to help you use it safely and effectively? Is anyone brave enough to go first? Yeah.
Thank you, Georgie. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm a head teacher.
In terms of potential, some real potential in teaching, although I have one question underpinning it all, then one experience to share, which comes to what I'm worried about. So the one question I have, which is probably most significant to me, is what's the point of a human teacher or a human school adult if generative AI can produce reports, lessons, and worksheets, and they're all produced by generative AI? I don't quite, that worries me. That's a personal worry. That's what I trained to do, to teach. And if generative AI could do it for me now, that worries me. But the point, I saw some really good stuff around a tool called Writer's Toolbox, which was described as educative AI and could clear education functions. And an experience I want to share with you is I think I had my first generative AI parental complaint to me. I know it because it's set out in section 1. It was all in perfectly presented English. Section 1 was what the parent was complained about. Section 2 is what they wanted me to do about it. Section 3 quoted every single law and legal requirement upon me. And Section 4 set out all the threats of how they'd take their complaint forward to Ofsted and beyond. So I was very tempted to suggest, I can't do it because I don't know how to do it, to feed it back into generative AI and ask it to respond. But I'd just like to raise as clearly, if families are using generative AI to create parental complaints into school, and we know already that parental complaints have rocketed since COVID, that's something that I'd like the department to be aware of and to be thinking of what guidance and advice they'd give to us. So thank you for today. I hope that was helpful.
No, definitely. I bet they got generative AI to write it. Like, that was the first thing. No, so firstly, on the kind of so part of the guidance that we've published, like, there must always be a human in the loop. Anything that's produced by a generative AI tool, I think that's probably one of the most important things to remember. We want to utilize AI for the benefit, the time-saving benefit. They cannot replace teachers. They cannot replace what a human does. But if we can use them to save time, to automate things that we can automate and save that precious time that they can utilize for face-to-face teaching and what they need to do, that's what we're aiming for. So definitely, and I would always say, I don't think I've seen a tool ever at all. Like, the thing is, they're trained to sound really human and normal and natural, but you always have to check the content. The outputs of a generative AI tool are only as good as the content that they're trained on. So if it's ChatGPT and scraped on the internet, always a human in the loop, not replacing teachers, but if we can use it to automate, to speed things up, to save that time where it can be used more beneficially, then definitely. So yeah, and definitely I'll note the complaints bit. That's really, really good to know. I think, did you have your hand up? Sorry, can we come to the front because he had it up a second? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, actually, it's something we're very scared of at school. I work in a secondary grammar, so we have some very bright kids who are into programming, and some of the things that the computer team have been worried about. The kids can write they can write the prompts they're practicing writing prompts. They're doing it in such a way that one young man wrote his history essay on it, told it where to go and look for the stuff, told it what he was expecting, and then gave it the mark sheet from an exam. So the things that the examiner would have been looking for to give it an A star, and was very open and honest with the history teacher. He wrote his own essay as well, but got the thing to do it, gave it to the history teacher. The history teacher looked at it and said, I can't fault anything that thing's done. And that's...
I mean, that's definitely what I was going to say first.
Wow. But that's one of the issues for us, is actually there are kids out there who are doing this, who can do this, and the risk when you're then marking work, you could be marking work at a level where you're predicting good results when the kid's not actually doing the actual work, when it comes down to the public exams, they are don't have access to any of this stuff, and we are trying to teach them that's one of the risks. But they're thinking along the lines of, actually, you could get into a public exam and not be able to do it at all because you haven't put in any of the actual work, apart from your computing lessons.
No, definitely. No, thank you. That's really, really good. Not good to hear, but it's good feedback for us. No, thank you for sharing that.
I can only say that I'm a big fan. But what I do, and maybe that's helpful for you here as well, is those long guidance which we get, so like from the Department for Education. I take the guidance, I put it in chat and ask it to summarize it for me.
Excellent. I endorse this use of generative AI.
I use quite a lot of AI to speed up my work, so minute taking, that kind of stuff. My question really is, AI is moving so fast, and it is our children's future. What is the DFE really doing about the curriculum and how we support our young people in being able to work in a future world where AI is going to be a massive part of it? This is all great, and the tools and everything, but this is going to be needed to be in their curriculum and how they learn, as well as programming and that kind of computing. This is going to be the language that our young people are going to be doing in the future.
Excellent question. Can I please get your name? And I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think there's a lot of excellent work going on in the department focusing on that. So can I take your name afterwards, and I'll see if I can find out. Thanks.
Hi, from the big topics to the small things. I'm a school business manager, and I think there are lots and lots of big topics and questions about AI. What I'm using it for is, we're using this thing called SLT AI, which is quite good just for taking data or reports and creating new reports. So I can do budget reports to governors. It just takes the data, compares with our budget. It'll do your whole analysis report, and without, traditionally what we did in Excel, or it's just like a template, and then you can just make small adjustments. We were told about the need to find efficiencies in our schools. So I see lots of potential for small admin tasks. I mean, the MIS system we're using has built-in AI. I've started to look into that. For example, it's very good at creating emails to parents. You can choose the tone, how you want it to appear. Is it friendly or business-like or professional or stern or whatever? And then it's quite good in terms of that for doing small tasks. Things like absence phone calls. And now there's a tool where you can take the voice mail, and that can be transcribed into an absence document, which is then, you can just, rather than being done manually and listening to the voicemails in traditional ways. So small admin tasks, I think we're only just scratching the surface right now, but I think there's a lot of potential there.
No, excellent, thank you. Okay, yep, so, sorry, it's time. No, fantastic questions, fantastic feedback, thank you. I do believe this is the final session of the day. You're free to go early. Thank you so much for attending this event today. I hope you found it really valuable and you got a lot from it. We'll be sharing the recordings and the slides and a survey. If you could please respond to that with your feedback, that would be fantastic, by email after the event has closed. So yeah, thank you very much. And yeah.